Welcome to the Make Meaning podcast. I'm Lynn Galadner, and I've dedicated my life to sharing stories of how people make meaning in their work and find purpose in their lives. On this podcast, we're going to talk about some of the great ideas and activities people do every day to make the world a better place and provide inspiration for others. So much of the meaning we find comes from interacting with great people, developing relationships that are mutually beneficial, and doing work that inspires everyone. I hope you'll be inspired by the people you meet here. We all need to find a way to make meaning in the mundane. Welcome back to the Make Meaning podcast. I'm Lynn Galadner, and today I'm speaking with Vickie Thompson-Sandy, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Buckeye Ranch. Vickie has worked in the nonprofit field for 29 years and is a well-recognized nonprofit child welfare and senior industry executive and community leader. Her career began in child welfare and then expanded into healthcare, senior living, housing, behavioral health, and disability work. Her last position was with Samaritas, one of the largest nonprofits in the state of Michigan. Vickie has a Bachelor of Science from Western Michigan University and a master's degree in social work from Eastern Michigan University. Vickie, welcome to the Make Meaning podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm thrilled to talk with you because our listeners should know that I've had the joy and pleasure of working with you for maybe 7 years, and I've seen you just rise like a shot to such leadership positions, which are so well-deserved because you are an amazing thinker and leader and have such a big heart, which all goes into your work. So I am thrilled to bring you to our audience and talk a little bit about how you find meaning and purpose in all that you do. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks. It's been great, Lynn. It's been great working with you over the years.
Yes, it's a mutual admiration society for sure. So let's begin by looking at, you've devoted your life and career to human social service work. And so I wonder if you might take our listeners through sort of a snapshot of your career journey, where you began and how you ended up here.
Sure. Well, I always have had a desire to work with kids and families. I think that probably was derived from the fact that I am the fifth of 6 children. So a large family that put a lot of emphasis on, brothers and sisters and family things. So I think that's where it started. My career started with my desire to work with youth and juveniles. And so I started down that career path, looking at a degree in criminal justice, and ended up actually working with youth in foster care, and fell in love with the idea that families could, if we walk alongside them, could be placed back together and kids could remain safely within their families and communities. And so worked in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri for a while, came back to Michigan, actually, to be near my own family, and continued my career in child welfare, making sure that foster parents were recruited and well-trained and we could support them in their work with taking care of kids in foster care and adoption. As my career progressed, I moved into adoption and was very satisfied in doing the work there. I had the opportunity to work with children who had physical and cognitive disabilities, and honestly were lingering in our mental health foster care system solely for the reasons that their parents were devastated by their disability and were not able to parent them.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a great experience in that children were able to be placed in adoptive families who accepted them for who they were, and where they were at in their developmental stage. But also that the birth parents got to come along beside that adoptive family.
Sure.
Because they had not abused or neglected those kids. They just were deeply grieving the loss of the child that they thought they would have.
Sure.
And got to see open adoptions. And I think that really early in my career spurred on for me the beauty of family, that family can be created in many different ways.
Yeah.
And so my career has really kept me there, working with families and kids. And so here I am at the Buckeye Ranch, a child welfare organization that focuses on children with mental health challenges and helps those kids remain with their families in the community.
Wonderful. So it's just been a progression in purpose and in focus. And so I love the name, the Buckeye Ranch, and it cracks me up. Even as being a University of Michigan graduate, I can still say
That's
it,
right.
But I wanted to share with our audience a little bit about, what is the Buckeye Ranch and what's your vision for your new role here?
Sure. So I just actually relocated to the Columbus area. So started this position in May of this year. So far, it's been a great experience. The Buckeye Ranch was started by a group of women, actually, who saw a need for kids who needed a home and needed treatment. And so they started the Buckeye Ranch, the Buckeye Boys Ranch, actually.
Okay.
And then later in its career became the Buckeye Ranch so that it could offer services to, both genders. And today we are one of the largest residential providers in Ohio and do mental health treatment for kids who are challenged to remain in community or in a foster home.
Okay.
But we have a very large community-based program where we are working with kids in the community, working with families to maintain kids in community, kids who are struggling, and we see that all over the nation, teenagers who are struggling, an increase in teen suicide. And so the Buckeye Ranch is really trying to be on the forefront of helping kids cope and get healthy with their mental health challenges.
Yeah.
We also provide foster care services for Ohio, and so are one of the largest providers in Franklin County here, surrounding Columbus, and have foster care across the state in multiple counties. And so it's ironically coming from Samaritas, where Samaritas was one of the largest refugee programs in the country. I come down to Columbus, and we are working with Somalis. And so have a Somali program here helping kids integrate into the school system, kids who are struggling with some behavioral health issues.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so it's great to be back in that realm as well.
That's great. Oh, that's so exciting. I love it. So, in the pre-interview, you said a lot of really interesting things about family and sort of, the multiple roles that you fill. You've said you find meaning in your work, but that also in being a mom to your two girls. And so I thought we could talk a little bit about, where you find that meaning in your life, and how you juggle it all, so first, talk a little bit about, sort of where you find those moments of meaning in your own life. And then we'll talk a little bit about that juggle to be a working mom too.
Yeah, it is a juggle, isn't it?
Yes.
Finding meaning, I think it's in my work. I think that I have evolved as a leader, recognizing that while I love working with kids and family, as the leader of an organization, I'm no longer working directly with children and their families. And so really my role is to create a vision so that the kids and families in the community that I work in can be healthy, and we can have an organization that is able to serve them and provide services that they need.
Sure.
And so my meaning really is in making space for our leaders and our direct care staff to do what they do best, which is really come to work at nonprofit organizations because they love working with kids and families, and they want to make a difference. And so we need to allow them to make a difference. And quite often, we know in our work we can get in people's way.
Sure.
To do meaningful work. And so that really is where I find probably my greatest joy, is seeing them succeed. As as a parent, you're so close to it that sometimes it's hard to see that
Yes.
as clearly as you do when you get to step away in your work. But
Yeah.
it's a joy when I can see my girls discover new things and be successful at new things. So that's probably where I find the most meaning for them, is just helping them grow as individuals and being strong. It's a monumental task to think about raising children in our community and in our world. But for me, I think it feels a little bit heavier raising girls and teaching them to be strong individuals.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same for boys, for those parents who are raising boys as well. But for me, raising two girls, to give them a voice, right? To give them a voice and help them be very confident in their words.
Well, it's
so
true.
That they can read.
Yeah. I mean, I think women and girls, we're working so hard to even the playing field, but it's still uneven. And as a woman leader in the nonprofit sector, I'm sure you feel that. And I'm sure your experiences inform how you parent. I think it's interesting that what you're doing both in your work and as a parent, it sounds like you're really trying to bolster the people around you so that they can soar, so that they can be who they're meant to be and step into that role fully. Yeah? You see those parallels between work and home?
Yes, I think that's right. I think that it is our job, right, to leave this world a better place than when we came, and who better to do that than the people who are going to be behind us,
right,
as in this world. And I say to the leaders that I work with, it really is our job to raise strong child welfare leaders, not so that they stay at our organization and do great work, but that they go out and go to other organizations as well, or create their own, and go out and just help kids in every community. And that's the same for our family, is to raise our girls in a way, right, that they can go out and have meaningful impact on the people around them.
Absolutely. And sometimes the letting go is the hard part, is just saying, my role here is to raise you to leave. As a parent, that can be harder. But even as a leader, if you have trusted, talented staff and they move on, that's hard to see, that's hard to experience too. They leave a hole for sure,
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So as a woman leader in the nonprofit sector, has it been challenging? Have you found that you're working doubly hard? Is it like other sectors where there's still that double standard, or are there unique challenges as a female leader that you're finding?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think about that a lot. Do I face different challenges than other people? I'm not sure, actually. I think about I think about some of my other friends, other professionals, where the males are the people working outside of the home, and they're the sole source of income. Is that a stronger pressure than a household that we have chose where we both are bringing in incomes and have to just juggle with different pressures?
Sure.
I think we all in our in our space have unique challenges.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure specifically that I feel my challenge is much different. I do think it gives me a different perspective.
Sure.
And I think, honestly, as a female leader, some of the men who have worked for me, potentially, I felt have been able to be more open about the challenges they face as a working father, and being honest that they need to take a day off or an afternoon off to be with their kids. And I think sometimes that maybe gives me from their perspective, maybe a different advantage.
Sure.
To allow them to be honest about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible question, I'll admit. Like to say, "Oh, as a female leader, have you had it harder?" Because how do we know if it's because of our gender that we have extra struggles or obstacles? And also, I mean, we just need to be, I think you'd agree, the best example and role model in our roles that we can be so that we make it easier for everybody who comes after us. That's the journey. I mean, and it's funny because when they say, oh, how do we master work-life balance? I don't know that there is such a thing. It's when you're at work, be fully there. When you're at home, be fully there and have time for you as a person too. I think that's the goal,
That's right. And I have said for several years now that I cannot balance actually my work. I really just have to kind of center it.
Yeah.
Meaning that my kids are really my center, right? My work, they have to be part of that.
Yes.
And so they will tell you exactly how hard the couch was in my Samaritan's office, where they had many an afternoon where they hung out on it because they weren't feeling the greatest. Or, they came to my new office and said, Mom, you need to redecorate this one. Right? So they are part of it with me, and I think hopefully that will make them better people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love how, this is something I didn't know, that when I was reading through your pre-interview, that you lived with your grandmother for a period of time and that she lived until she was 106. And there were so many things about just the way you spoke about her that I loved. And it just made me smile. But what you said was that you admired her for her level of contentment. And I've just been thinking about that since I read it. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about her and about what that lesson was for you, what the takeaway was with contentment, and how that stays with you today.
Yeah, my grandmother was an amazing, amazing person, and she, if anyone knows me, they know that I'm extroverted, and I don't mind being in front of a crowd. I actually probably enjoy that, and I would say that was not necessarily my grandmother. She was more quiet, and she lost her husband early on. They had only been married, into 20 years, not 40, 50, 60, sure, but 20 years. And so I remember her telling me when I was quite young that she had been single longer than she had been married.
Wow.
And I just thought about that, right? It was at a time of my life, right? I'm 15, 16 when relationships, I think, are the most important thing in the world. and to view her as a person who was completely content, and to be a quiet, humble person living on her own, I just always wondered, is that something that I would ever be content with? But she was quiet, but she was fierce. And having, a family with 6 of us, our house wasn't always very quiet. Actually, I would say it was very quiet. But my dad, was also a very funny and not a quiet man. And I remember her quietness. She told him to do something, and he said he wasn't going to do it, and she reprimanded him in front of me and said, "Oh no, you will do it." And I remember thinking, she's fierce. She's quiet and fierce. But she was very content with simplicity. If I look back on her just physically, her house was very simple. She was elated at that time of my life to have a microwave, right? When the rest of us were like, "Oh my goodness, grandmother," right? There's so many more things bigger and better than that. But I think about that in my world now and how fast-paced we are, and how, today one iPhone is okay, but certainly we want the next one coming out. Our world wraps around the corner, right, of the building waiting for it.
Right.
And how we have lost just a sense of being content with what we have. And, me absolutely included in that. And I just wonder if there will be some point in my development that I will reach a level of contentment. pure contentment that it was clear was where she was.
It's a really good goal. I think every single day, we have the choice to complain or look at, glass half empty, or, what problems shall I focus on today? Or, wow, I have another day, and look at all the things in it, and the people, and the opportunities. And I have to remember that too, because I do love the work that I do, but sometimes I forget that. And we have to focus on all that we have as opposed to what we don't. And I think that's the first step toward contentment for sure. Well, it's wonderful to speak with you, and an interview on a podcast goes so quickly. So I could talk to you for hours, but I want to finish with one question. We focus here on the Make Meaning podcast about how people make meaning in their work and find purpose in their lives. And I wonder what advice you might offer our listeners for how they can find that meaning or live according to that purpose, whether it's in work or at home or in any way. Do you have any thoughts for our listeners to take away?
Yeah, I think it's finding purpose comes in small ways. It is, I would say right now, just in my own experience of being in a new position and a new organization, there are so many things that potentially, right, I want to do.
Sure.
And I have to tell myself, right, to look at the small gains and to look at the things that really do add joy day to day. And so I think you can, if you really look for those moments, things that make you happy, things that feel like a sense of accomplishment, it's easy to overlook those or to just, take it for granted. But I think you find meaning when you look at those small tasks or small accomplishments, I'll say, small moments of joy. That's when we need to pause. And, I am the first to miss that moment with my kids, right? To not pause and just say, look at this joyful experience and just be in that moment.
Yeah.
I think we all can take something from that.
I tell my kids, I've said this and I don't think I model it very well, but I say, for every negative thing you say, you should say 10 positive things. And they sort of, they're all teenagers, so they roll their eyes at me and now they mock me. So if I say something, they'll be like, she says 10 positive things, guys. And, because I don't think I achieve it. I think it's a great goal, but you're right. We sometimes miss those beautiful successes that could be quick or small, because we're so focused on the bigger things, but the bigger things come from all those small things. So that's really great advice. So
the beauty in that, Lynn, is that they heard you. Right?
Okay,
they
good.
Heard you, even though they are mocking you when they repeat it. You can take comfort that they heard you.
So I'm so glad I'm talking to a social worker, because you just reinforced me so positively. I really appreciate that. And you know what? I'm hoping that 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, when they're talking to their own kids, I hear some of these phrases and like,
that's
aha,
exactly right.
I did something right, So
that's right.
But
that's
thank
right.
you.
We will be sitting back as older women, totally content, right, and looking at all the joys in the world.
Yes, we will be. Yes, sipping our cocktails, and I'm going to have a notebook that's going to record all of the things I hear them say that I once said. That's going to be like, yes, reinforcement. I did it. So,
that's right.
Well, Vickie Thompson-Sandy, it is always a pleasure to chat with you, and I'm just so thrilled to share you and your inspiration on the Make Meaning podcast. And I hope our listeners will check out the Buckeye Ranch. And is there anything you can offer them in terms of learning more about the Buckeye Ranch, or how people can get involved in some way?
Sure. I would encourage them to come to our website, buckeyeranch.org.
All right, cool. Well, Vickie Thompson-Sandy, thank you so much for being on the Make Meaning podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Make Meaning podcast. I'm Lynn Golodner, and I've really enjoyed being here with you today. You can find the Make Meaning podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and I'd love it if you'd share our great conversations with all your people so we can add meaning wherever we go and whatever we do.